Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to be able to be here today, given the chance to give this sermon here. It's unfortunate how I was given the chance, but I believe that through God's providence and through the Holy Spirit speaking through me to you, this will be a blessing to both you and to me and to those who are listening. So the title of the sermon is Forgiving the Unforgivable. The person who we're going to be talking about in the sermon is Joseph. Joseph is a character who a lot of us know in the Bible. I'm sure we've heard his story a lot of times, but I'd like to take a bit of a different approach of it today. Today we're going to be focusing mainly on the aspect of him forgiving his brothers despite all the evil things they did and all the lies and all the deception and all the treachery. So, if all of you could please turn in your Bibles with me and keep them open in Genesis 37, and we're just going to be going through the book of Genesis through these chapters. So if you could just have your Bibles out to these and just keep them open. So our story starts in Genesis 37, verse 3 and 4. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his other children, because he was a son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. So we already see how the story is starting here. A favorite son who's loved above all the others and who's especially favored by his father. And it's not just a secret love that he has, like, ooh, you're okay. Ooh, I like you a lot, but I'm not going to tell anyone. He made that obvious. He gave him a coat, a nice coat with different colors on it. And obviously his brothers didn't take too nicely to this. Yes, sister?
But you know what that meant when it was such a different color? It meant royalty.
Yes.
And that's why.
Yes. And also in Genesis 37, verse 2, we can see these are generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brethren. And the lad was with the sons of Gilead, and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wife. And Joseph brought unto his father their evil reports. So we can see that Joseph maybe wasn't exactly a snitch, but he would be reporting, we could say, to put nicely, on his brothers. If they do something bad, he'd write it down. He's like, Father, I found this rather interesting, but they happen to be doing this and this and this. And this drew their hate, and their hatred grew more because of this. Because they wouldn't just be doing something that they shouldn't be doing, and their father would never know, but their father would always end up knowing, because Joseph would be telling them about this. And to add on top of all of this, in verse 9, Joseph was having these dreams, and he dreamed in another dream, and told it to his brother, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. So they were bowing down to him. So he not only was he loved more than all of them, because Rachel gave birth to him, and Jacob only loved Rachel. He kind of loved Leah, but he mostly loved Rachel. So that's why he loved Joseph. And they would be reporting on all their wrongdoings. And he was having dreams that objects were worshiping him. They didn't know. We'll see later on today that this prophecy is gonna be fulfilled. All what's being said here, the sun and the moon and the stars, these are his brothers. They're gonna be bowing down. They're gonna be worshiping him. So all of this is happening, and the hatred just grew. We could see what happens when envy and hatred enter someone's life. They start thinking a little bit differently. They start acting a bit differently. His brothers, we know they already didn't like him. And on all of this, they were just the more and more, day by day, their hate was growing and growing. And they were starting to reach a limit. And soon enough, that limit came. In verse 27 and 28. Come, and let us sell him unto the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brethren were content. Then, as it just so happened, there passed by Midianites, merchants, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph to Egypt. So this is a new chapter in Joseph's life. He's taken away from everything. He's put it into a new environment. In Genesis 39, verses 1 and 2. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him off the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither. The Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. So we know that also the Lord, it was his providence. He didn't just happen to be bought by this one person, but by the person who happened to be a guard, who happened to be in charge of some things for Pharaoh. It was God's providence that he was placed there. Because think about this. He could have been placed in a way lower slavery position. Because think about it, you had different positions. People who were working in the fields, hard work every day. Then you had some people who were servants, and some people who were hired. And Joseph was blessed, and God let this happen in such a way that he would be put into Potiphar's house to make order there. However, if we read verses 7 through 9, and it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eye upon Joseph, and she said, Lie with me. But he refused, and said unto his master's wife, Behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the house, and he hath commanded me that all hath to my hand. There is none greater in his house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me, but thee, because thou art his wife. How can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? So he didn't take the temptation. He said, No, I am blessed. God has protected me. Your husband has allowed me to be in charge of a lot of things in the house, to take care of everything, to make sure everything's in order, and then I'm going to go disrespect him and sleep with him, and not just disrespect him, but this wicked thing you want me to do? Absolutely not. So we can see that he had self-esteem. Just because he was away from his father, who couldn't be accountable for him, just because he was away from the rest of his family, just because he wasn't surrounded by godly people, doesn't mean that he allowed himself to be moved and pushed into this wicked life. Doesn't mean that he allowed this. He continued to remain fast and to refuse from what she wanted him to do. However, she was a persistent woman, and in verse 17, and she spake unto him according to these words, saying, The Hebrew servant which thou hast brought unto us came in and unto me, and to mock me. And it came to pass, as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled out. And it came to pass, when the master heard the words of his wife, which she was speaking to him, after this manner did thy servant unto me, and his wrath was kindled. So she lied. She lied. But she was persistent. She was very persistent this whole time. She was trying to get him to lie down with her, sleep with me. She was trying to get him to do something very wicked. And he kept saying, I can't. I'm not allowed to. I will not. I won't do this. And finally, she managed just to snag his garment, just the edge, and it fell off. And then she said, Hey, he was here. I have proof that he was here with me. And obviously, what was the master going to do? Say, Oh, no, I don't believe you. He believed her. He believed her, and says his wrath was furious. And what did he do? He cast him into prison. But even in prison, even amidst all these trials, even amidst all these temptations, despite all the difficulties, all the temptation, everything that was, we could say, not going according to his way, we can see here, But the Lord was with Joseph, and showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph all the prisoners that were in the prison. And whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of. And the doer of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him. And that which he did, the Lord made it prosper. So God continued to bless him. Despite all the difficulties, despite all the temptations, despite everything what he was going through, he still blessed him. And he still had his hand over him. He still was watching him. Even in the depths of that prison. Even in the depths of that prison, he was still given something to be in charge of. He was still given responsibility. And this also speaks to us. Even when we're going to be in hard times. In Joseph's case, it was pretty hard. He was in jail. It doesn't get that much lower than that. He was in a cell, accused by Potiphar's wife. But despite that, he still held responsibility, and he still was faithful to God, and he still made an influence. People saw something was different about him. People saw that he wasn't just a slave who did something wrong, or just another person who was cast in jail. There was something different. There was this light about him There was the way how he worked, how this earnestness in him, that was different from everyone. And now at this time, Joseph is interpreting the dreams instead of having them. So in Genesis 40, you can there's the whole section is verses 1 through 19. So the king had two of his servants who offended him. Two people who were working in his house, they offended him. So he just sent them both to jail. He was that powerful man. He could just say, you go to jail and you go to jail. No questions. They went there. And while there, they were both with Joseph. And they both happened to have these dreams. These were very strange dreams to them. They had no idea. What is this dream about these random things, seemingly random things? But Joseph was able to interpret this for them. The dreams we can read read a little bit about them right here. And the dreams, I'll mainly say what they symbolize. They were symbolizing that one was to be restored to his original position because he was innocent, and the other one, the one who was guilty, he was to be executed. This is the interpretation that he gave to them. And next in Joseph's life, we know that we can see here, as I have in the title, a forgotten favor for a friend. So he told the butler, hey, please, just one favor, please, don't forget about me. Just don't forget about me. When you go to Pharaoh to tell him about me, please not forget about me. And here we can see, and as it came to pass, the third day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, he made a feast unto all his servants, and he lifted up the head of the chief butler of the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief butler unto his butlership again, and he gave the cup unto Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted. Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgot him. He forgot. He forgot amidst all what Joseph was asking. Please remember me. Just remember me. Do not forget me. He forgot. For 2 years. 2 years. 2 whole extra years he spent in that jail. And then Pharaoh had a dream. In verse 1, we know, and it came to pass at the end of the 2 full years that Pharaoh had dreamed. And he slept, and he had a second dream as well. He slept and dreamed the second time. So, what was these dreams? There were 7 cows. 7 of them were lean, and 7 of them were fat. And the leans, these skinny, the non-healthy looking ones, they came out and they devoured the healthy ones. Except their size didn't seem to change at all. They were still these same shriveled, ugly-looking cows. And Pharaoh was confused. What was going on? I had another dream. It was similar to that, except it was wheat and with chaff. And also, the bad ears ate the good ears, and they still looked bad. And Pharaoh was so confused. What is this dream? And so he called everyone. He called on all the wise men, the magicians, everyone who was there. He was asking them, hey, can any of you interpret this? Can any of you tell me, what is this dream about? Because he was so confused. He knew that it's not just a normal dream. And no one could give him anything. No one. But then, the favor, what he promised, what the butler promised, he was able to return. Then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. Pharaoh was wroth with his servants, and put me in ward in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream in one night, I and he. We dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was with us a young man, an Hebrew servant to the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams. To each man according to his dream did he interpret. And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me he restored into mine office, and him he hanged. So he remembered. He remembered in this time when Pharaoh heard a dream. He's like, hold on. I recall, somewhere before in my past life, I also had a dream with someone, and someone interpreted for me. King, there's this Hebrew, this Hebrew man, this young man who interpreted the dreams for us. And when Pharaoh heard this, he said, go get me Joseph. Go get me this man. And Joseph was pulled out of the prison. Finally, after 2 long years being there, aside from what he had to be there, 2 more years. He finally pulled out. He was cleaned up, put into nice clothes, and he was brought before Pharaoh. Patriarchs and Prophet, page 224, paragraph 3. The famine extended to the land of Canaan, and it was severely felt in part of the country where Jacob dwelt. Hearing of the abundant provisions made by the king of Egypt, 10 of Jacob's sons journeyed thither to purchase grain. So, what do we see here? The famine happened. Everything happened. Everything went according to how Joseph prophesied. How he interpreted the dream, which was also prophesying item. Everything happened exactly according to that. And Jacob heard of this. Jacob heard there is a lot of grain, that there's food. There's potential for them to survive through this famine in Egypt. So he sent 10 of his sons. He sent all of them, but Benjamin. Benjamin he had to keep next to him. He couldn't quite let Benjamin go. Benjamin was too precious to him. He was all what he had left of Rachel. And his brothers went there. And as you'll see in the second part of the highlighted, as Joseph saw his brothers stooping and making obeisance, his dreams came to his mind, and the scene of the past rose vividly before him. So what happened now? His brothers were bowing down, and Joseph remembered. Wait, hold on. I had a dream about this. I dreamt about that there would be stars, and the sun and the moon. They would be bowing down to me. Here are my brothers now in front of me, bowing down to me. And they're trying to talk with him and trying to explain to him that our father will not let our brother go. But despite that, they go back and forth a bit in this, and eventually says, fine, go, except I will keep your brother. Except, who did he keep? Who did he not let go with them? Does anyone here know who it is? Simeon. Now, by chance, does anyone know Simeon's role in the life of Joseph? What did Simeon do? What was the wrong that he committed? Was he best friends with Joseph? They were buddy-buddy. They loved each other so much.
Was the one who initiated it.
Yes. So he wanted to test him as well. So he held Simeon back, and he sent them back to their father, to Jacob. And in Genesis 43, verse 3 and 5. And Judah spake unto him, saying, Protest. The men did solemnly protest unto us, saying, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. So at this point, they've already came back to their father. They came back, and they came back from their father, and they told him, Look, we are not going to be able to go back and buy more food unless you give us Benjamin, and we go back. Then we'll also be able to get Simeon. But they were trying to persuade him. If thou wilt send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food. But if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down. For the man said to us, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. So Joseph had set a standard for them. He said, Look, I will let you go. I will keep Simeon, but I will not let you return unless you come back with your brother. You must bring back your brother. He gave them such a stern condition. Why? Because otherwise they could maybe lie to him. So he kind of tried forcing their hand in this case. So they would have to bring their younger brother, so he could see that Benjamin would still be alive, that he wouldn't suffer, that he didn't experience anything under his brothers. Verses 8 through 10. And Judah said unto Israel his father, Send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and thou, and also our little ones. I will be surety for him, and of my hand shalt thou require him. If I bring him not unto thee, and set him before thee, then let me bear the blame forever. For except we had lingered, surely now we had returned this second time. So you can think about our lives. If we tell someone, I'll do something for you, or I'll promise you this in exchange for, etc., etc., etc. Except these usually, maybe will these be physical items, money, or some time or something. But Judah did something that we also need to understand that we need to do with some people. We need to promise them with our life. We need to say, he said, I will be surety for him. Of mine hand shalt thou require him. If I bring him not unto thee, and set him before thee, then let me bear the blame forever. So he took responsibility. He said, they initially tried saying, if anything, my youngest sons, they will be how I will be essentially holding this myself responsible for this. But that was not good enough for Jacob. And that's the same for us. We can promise other people, or we can promise things, or time, or money. But if we can promise to someone that I will do something for you, or even if we can promise someone, I will listen to you, I will pray with you, that will be powerful for them. And that will be something that will be serious to them, and they will truly appreciate that. And in this case, this is what Jacob was waiting for. So after hearing this, Jacob reluctantly he gave up Benjamin to them. So after this, they were packing up their bags. Oh yeah, and also before this, let's not forget that Joseph, he was still testing them. So not only was he testing them with having their brother there and telling them to bring their younger brother, but what else did he do with them? Did he just give them the grain? He put the money back. He wanted to see, let's see how honest these guys are. Let's see if they're going to be scared the fact that they still have the money, or if they're going to be maybe they're going to say, oh, I essentially got the grain for free, no complaints. So they then this time are heading back, except Jacob tells them, hey, take that money and take extra to pay for the grain, so you will not upset the king. And then let's read here the highlight. They thought that they might been intentionally placed to furnish occasion for making them slaves. In their distress, they consulted with the steward of the house, relating to him the circumstances of their visit to Egypt, and in proof of their innocence, informed him that they had brought back the money found in their sacks, also other money to buy food. And they added, we cannot tell you put our money in the sacks. And the man replied, peace be unto you, fear not, your God and the God of your fathers hath given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money. So they were scared at this time. They were thinking that, oh no, maybe God planted, maybe they want to arrest us just for that. So they were really trying to play it safe. They're saying, hey, we have the money. I have the money. We have the money right here. I'll give this back to you, and I got extra. Don't worry, everything's okay. We brought back the money, and the servant knew what was going on at that time. So he said, don't worry. But when they came back, they not only did they come back with the money, who did they bring with them? Who did they bring back? They brought back their younger brother Benjamin. So this is another test that there was, and they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men marveled one to another, and he took and set the mess in front of them. But Benjamin's mess was 5 times so much as any of theirs, and they drank and were merry with him. So 2 things happen here. They think, how did this guy accidentally set us all up in age from youngest to oldest? How did he know this? They thought, oh, surely coincidence. But that wasn't their biggest of their concerns. They all got a good amount of food, but Benjamin got 5 times more than them. Were they saying, man, Benjamin got more than me? Are you kidding me? How did this king give Benjamin more than me? I wanted some more food. Were they going around telling each other that? No, they were eating, as it says here. They drank and were merry with it. They were just eating. They weren't complaining. They weren't murmuring. None of this. But Joseph still he desired to test them further. And before their departure, he ordered that his own cup of silver, should be concealed in the sack of the youngest. So Joseph, he was happy to see that they were improving, but he just wanted one more thing. Just wanted to see truly, how selfless are my brothers? Did they change? Because all of this, maybe they could have just talked among each other and could have been worked out. But this will truly be a final test. So he told his servant, put my cup in Benjamin's sack. So this cup wasn't just an ordinary cup. We'll read a little more about this. And the cup was supposed to possess the power of detecting any poisonous substance placed therein. At that day, the cups of this kind were highly valued as safeguard against murder by poison. So this is from Patriarch of the Prophets, page 229, paragraph 1. So this wasn't just your average cup. Wasn't, because that's what I personally was thinking. It's just a simple silver cup, and obviously bad to steal from a king, but it wasn't just that. This was a special cup. It was an expensive cup for the time because it could stop you, the king, any king or any pharaoh or any ruler from being assassinated at the time. And as we read Genesis 44, verses 6 and 8, and he overtook them, and he spake unto them these words, and they were with him. Wherefore, saith my Lord, these works? God forbid that thy servants should do according to this thing. Behold, the money which we found in our sack mouth, we brought again out of the land of Canaan. How then should we steal out of our Lord's house silver and gold? So at this time they caught of them, and they said, you are thieves. You stole from the king's house. Later it reads in the verses, how does they repay good with evil? So all of these good things the king is doing for you, he's giving you food, and he's giving you plenty of grain and supplies, and you steal from him? Now let's keep reading. This is very interesting how they say this. Sealing their fate with their own words. To the steward's accusation, the travelers answered, wherefore saith my Lord these words? God forbid that thy servants should do according to this thing. Behold, the money which we found in our sack's mouth we brought again unto thee out of the land of Canaan. How then shall we steal the Lord's thine house silver or gold? With whomsoever of thy servant it be found, both let him die, and we will also be my Lord's bondmen. So they were confident. They were sure of themselves that we did not steal. They knew that they didn't steal. At least they thought that they didn't. They didn't know what was going on behind the scenes. That's where they were so confident. They said, let him die, and we will be your slaves. That's what bondman is. A bondman would be a slave. Someone by a bond, you're held by your own words. Now also, let it be according unto your words, said the steward. He said, okay, you said so. You said, I won't argue, but we will check you. He with whom it is shall be my servant, and he shall be blameless. He said, whoever I'll find it in, okay, fine. They'll be my servant, and all of you can't say anything about that because you said it. And everyone agreed to that. Genesis 44, verses 11 and 12. Then they speedily took down every man his sack to the ground, and opened every man his sack. And he searched and began at the eldest, and left at the youngest. And the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Oops, that's not good. They had all promised that the cup was not with them. They had swore, like, no, we had not stolen from you. And then a cup. Care to explain this? And as it reads, one verse later down, and they rent their clothes and ladded every man his ass and returned to the city. So the sorrow that they were feeling is unimaginable, because their father, they had promised him that they would bring back Simeon and that they would return with Benjamin. Except what's going on now? Benjamin is now being accused of stealing, and is being proven of stealing. They're renting their clothes. They're very sorrowful for this. And then with this comes the conclusion of their test. I'd like to read this whole paragraph from Patriarchs and Prophets, page 230, paragraph 2. In his deep distress, Judah now drew near to the ruler and exclaimed, O my Lord, let thy servant, I pray thee, speak a word in my Lord's ear. Let not thine anger burn against his father, against thy servant. For thou art even as Pharaoh. In words of touching eloquence, he described his father's grief at the loss of Joseph, and his reluctance let Benjamin come with them to Egypt, as he was the only son left of his mother, Rachel, to whom Jacob was so dearly loved. Now therefore, he said, when I come to thy servant, my father, and the lad be not with us, seeing that his life is bound up in the lad's life, it shall come to pass that when he seeth the lad, he is not with us, he will die. And thy servant shall bring down the gray hairs of thy servant, our father, with sorrow to the grave. So they're saying, look, please, you have no idea how important Benjamin is to our father. He's the last of the wife which he so dearly loved. He will die if he will not see his son, if he'll know that his son cannot return with him. You will not be able to understand the grief that's going to be happening. They're earnestly pleading with him. Now therefore I pray thee, for thy servant shall become surety of the lad unto my father, saying, if I bring him not unto thee, then I shall be able to bear the blame of my father forever. Now therefore I pray thee, let thy servant abide instead of the lad, a bondman to my Lord, and let the lad go up with his brethren. For how shall I go up to my father, and the lad be not with me? Lest peradventure I see that the evil shall come on my father. He said, he came to him, please, take my life. Take my life instead of the lad's, instead of my brother's. Please, let me be your bondman. Let me be your servant. Let me be the person who will work for you. I will work for you instead. But please, don't let my brother go. Was this enough for Joseph? This was enough. Joseph saw the earnestness in their voices. Joseph was a very smart man. Joseph was a very educated man, and he could read from off of his brothers. He could tell that they were being earnest with him. In Genesis 45, verses 3 through 8. And Joseph said to his brethren, I am Joseph. He came clean to them. He said, I am your brother. They stood there dumbfounded. I am Joseph. I am Joseph. Doth my father yet live? And his brethren could not find answers for him, for they were troubled at his presence. They were confused. They're saying, hold on. We sold you. We sold you into slavery. Because this whole time, they were living with the guilt, the pain, because they all in their mind knew, we sold Joseph off into slavery. We have no idea what's going on with him. We have no idea if he's alive, if he's well, what's going on with him, if he's dead. They had no idea. They had no idea where he went. All they knew is that they sold him for 20 pieces of silver. And Joseph said to his brethren, come near me, I pray you. And they came near and said, I am Joseph your brother, whom he sold into Egypt. Now therefore, be not grieved, nor angry with yourselves. And he sold me hither. For God did send me before you to preserve life. So Joseph, going back to our point of forgiveness, Joseph was not angry towards them. He wasn't biased. He said, look, it's providence. God allowed me to come here. God allowed me to come here so that I could save the life of you. I could save the life of our father. I could save the life of our people. God made this providence. God allowed this to happen. Don't be distressed. This is all part of God's master plan. Don't be alarmed. For these 2 years hath the famine been in the land, and yet there are 5 years in which there shall neither be airing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve a posterity in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So now it was not that you sent me hither, but God. And he hath made me a father to Pharaoh, and the Lord of all his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Egypt. Again, emphasizing his point. This is providence. This doesn't happen by chance, by accident, by luck or skill. This is God's providence, that he allowed all these situations, all these events to play out in such a way that Joseph would be at the place where he was. That the children of Israel, that the promise that he made to their forefathers, to the forefathers of Jacob, Abraham, and Isaac, all of those promises would be fulfilled. In Patriarchs and Prophets, his brothers stood motionless, dumb with fear and amazement. The ruler of Egypt, their brother Joseph, whom they had envied and whom they had murdered and finally sold as a slave, they spiritually murdered him. When they all plotted and thought of maybe killing him, maybe selling him to slavery, they were spiritually murdering him in that moment, because they were plotting to maybe kill him. Because a lot of slaves in the time, they were mistreated. Slaves were not well taken care of. There were very harsh hours, poor living conditions, poor food, malnourishment. The slaves were just seen as property, something expendable, something that just was used for its time while they had energy, and then they were just to be cast away. So it was a miracle that Joseph was alive. It was providence from God. All their ill treatments of him passed before them. They remember how they had despised his dreams, had labored to prevent their fulfillment, yet they had acted their part in fulfilling these dreams. So now they see those very dreams that they were so angry at Joseph for having. What just happened? They were fulfilled to the letter. Exactly happened. Joseph had 2 dreams of where his brothers would have been worshiping him. And what happened? In 2 occasions, his brothers, they were bowing down and they were earnestly pleading with him. Yet they acted their part fulfilling these dreams. And now they were completely in his power. He would not, no doubt, avenge the wrong they had suffered. So Joseph had no ill intent. Throughout this whole thing, Joseph wasn't struggling to fall asleep tonight, just dreaming, just really, really wanting to get that revenge, to punish his brothers for the pain and discomforts. He had none of that. He was ready to forgive them, to move on. So what are some lessons that we can learn from Joseph's life? We can see he had such a powerful life. He lived a life of selflessness. He did not want to punish his brothers, to teach them lessons. Despite the fact that he was a favorite of his father, he was still faithful to God no matter what. Even in a strange land, even away from all his family, from his father, from his brothers, even despite the fact that he didn't have anyone to hold him accountable, he was faithful. He didn't fall to the seduction of Potiphar's wife. He didn't fall to any of the other temptations. He didn't take glory for anything what Pharaoh asked him to do. When he was interpreting the dreams to the butler and the baker, he didn't take glory to that. He didn't take glory to anything that was happening into the land, to the fact that now Egypt is prosperous and wealthy. He didn't take glory for any of that. He was constantly giving the glory to God, despite the fact that his father wasn't there by his side. Despite the fact that he was mistreated by his brothers, he did not develop any bitterness against them. He did not have any anger. He didn't want anything to happen to them. Because he had found providence of God through all of this. He saw God's purpose. He saw God's hand skillfully guiding him through all of this, through all these difficulties, through all the hardships. He saw that God was there with him, that God was with him. He was protecting him. He was blessing him. Despite being in an unwelcoming environment, he remained faithful to God. No matter what, no matter the prison, the hardships, the slavery, no matter being in a different house, he was still faithful to God through all of this. And most of all, he had a forgiving spirit. At the end of the day, and re-emphasizing all these points, he didn't want to punish his brothers. He didn't want them dead. He didn't want anything else. He was ready to forgive them. He was ready to forgive and forget. We need to have these same thoughts. We need to have similar thoughts. We need to be ready to forgive someone. If someone does wrong to us, if someone hurts us, they really, really hurt us. I mean, this person hurt you. They did so much wrong to you. You are fully justified by human standards to get your revenge against them. They cheated you, they lied to you, they scorned you, they humiliated you. By all human standards, you have the full right to get revenge against this person. But are you going to have that forgiving spirit? In many ways, Joseph lived a life that is that of a prototype life of Christ. Christ in his life, he was also mistreated, he was hated, he was scorned. He ended up being crucified, dying, taking the pain of all the sins of the world on his shoulders, dying on that cross for all of us. And despite all of that, did Jesus complain? Did Jesus whine and murmur, saying, "Oh, why do I have to die for all these people? Jesus could have summoned angels at any time to come and to take him down from that cross. Even though he was being mocked, why don't you call down angels to come take you down?" He could have done that. Jesus could have easily done that, but that was not the purpose. Joseph lived a similar life. Joseph was scorned. Joseph was treated unfairly. But he didn't want revenge. He didn't want anyone to suffer. He forgave them. And Jesus did the same. Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Jesus asked for forgiveness. Joseph asked for forgiveness. And we as well need to ask for forgiveness. Are we going to... Today's day and age, it's so difficult. We're living in a time when we have no idea. Tomorrow is as uncertain as ever. We anyways don't know what's going to be tomorrow, but today is especially different. You don't know what's going to happen with this COVID and this mess of politics and everything like that. We need to be more faithful than ever. We need to be asking for forgiveness. Look to someone who you hurt. Look to someone who even though they wronged you, even though you have by all accounts the right to get revenge on them, forgive them. Forgive them, because you don't know what's going to be tomorrow. Amen.